Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to WCNC Charlotte To Go. Following two big things this morning. For one, we've got Milton down in Florida. We'll get the latest track on that. And then also, of course, got to keep in mind the situation still for the folks up in the mountains still recovering from Helene.
The good news here is that Milton was a fast-moving storm making its way across Florida after tearing across the peninsula. You're taking a live look from the University of Tampa right now. This is after the storm. Quiet now. The sun is up. But now that the day has started, we are going to start seeing the damage and just how serious the impacts are, whatever was left behind. It's the second major hit for this area in less than 2 weeks, with millions just starting to dry out after Hurricane Helene. And look at this new video overnight shows a large tornado. This is in Palm Beach County. It was one of at least a dozen tornadoes that touched down across Florida yesterday. Forecasters reported a record number of tornado warnings, and this morning officials have confirmed deaths as a result of those storms.
All those impacts came together that we started mentioning: the storm surge, the high winds, the amount of rainfall. All three impacts across Florida causing major issues out there. At the moment, the storm system is starting to move out into the Atlantic Ocean. That is good news. Still getting some strong winds out there. So looking at futurecast winds well above this you take the average of what would be a tropical storm, add another 5 miles prior to that, and that's what you're going to get. We're talking about winds gusting well over 70 miles an hour in some locations. Now, the latest was going to move out in the Atlantic Ocean. Winds sustained right now at 85 miles an hour, so still a Category 1 hurricane. Does lose some intensity, but probably not until early Friday morning. Notice out in the Atlantic Ocean this afternoon, about 2 o'clock, winds at 75 miles an hour. And then eventually heads really south of Bermuda as we get towards the end of the upcoming weekends, but not an impact for us beyond, say, today, late today and tomorrow. That is the good news. You know, there's so many issues that we talked about in this. Chris McKay has some interesting facts, the number of tornadoes, the amount of rainfall. All this came together, Chris.
Yeah, April 27, 2011 is known as one of the greatest tornado outbreaks in the Southeast history. Well, that was 132 tornado warnings that happened in Florida that day. Yesterday, 126, so only second to one of the most historical tornado events we've ever seen in history, coming from Milton. That was before the storm even made landfall. When it made landfall at 8:30, it had 120-mile-per-hour winds. By the way, that actually matches the sustained winds back in 1921. When you hear multiple of us, we've even said it here, that this is the worst storm this area has seen in 103 years, they're comparing it to that, and it was the exact same wind speed. This is also an interesting setup. Oftentimes, you can still have some heavier rain on the northern tier, but you had this front that was nearby. That wedged in some extra moisture, so just like what happened with the mountains, it pretty much exhausted all of the apparent moisture in the atmosphere, maximizing some of those rain totals. I did see that they were seeing rain rates up to 5 inches per hour around St. Petersburg and around Tampa Bay, Florida. Some of these estimates, anything in the gray to the white, is showing up to 15+ inches of rain, and that verified. Some of this data came in a little bit later just because there's a lot of systems that are down across this area, but 18.54 inches of rain was measured here, St. Petersburg at Albert Whitted. That is the most in one day at that site, and also the most for the Tampa Bay area. I looked at all the different sites from Sarasota, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater. Nothing comes close to that for a one-day total. Also, historically across the state of Florida, the most I've ever seen in one day, 23 inches. This is going to be well into the top 10, even flirting with the number 5 spot. Tampa International Airport, this is an interesting stat. Over 11 inches of rain fell in one day. This is only 0.02 off from the all-time record, and that dates back to 1939. I looked at the records for total rainfall for the month of October at Tampa Bay. The most I've ever had in one given month from the 1st to the 31st of October, 10.33 inches. We beat that in one day. This is a historic rainfall. The amount of tornadoes that came from this, everything is just pointing to multiple records breaking. The reason why it was so fast moving through the area, meteorologically speaking, is you had this polar jet off towards the north. You also had a tropical jet down towards the south. The two of these converging together raced it across the state. You also had that front that moved across our area, making it feel more fall-like. That also blocked it as well. So everything came together kind of with the perfect storm, allowing it to accelerate across the state. But hey, it didn't matter. Just because of that front, it mattered maximize the rain total, so it didn't really limit the rainfall as it usually does. What they can expect for the rest of the day, actually a little bit of sunshine by day's end to really illuminate all the damage that came down. It's one of the worst events that this area has ever seen, matching what we saw 103 years ago, and really just one of the worst hurricanes in general across the state of Florida, and that's saying something.
All right, Chris, now let's go to some new video overnight as that storm ripped through Florida, leaving a path of destruction.
WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards joins us in studio now with new video from overnight. Destiny?
Yeah, the state of Florida went through a lot. The Florida Peninsula has been dealing with high winds, flooding, and even deadly tornadoes since last night. According to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, nearly 20 confirmed tornadoes touched down across Florida. While we won't get the full scope of damage, or we're actually starting to get the full scope of damage really since the sun has started coming up. And we know this morning that dozens of buildings have been destroyed and at least 5 people have been taken to hospitals in Palm Beach County. 3 of those people are trauma patients that were trapped in cars or under rubble, and there are others with minor injuries who were treated on the ground. At least 2 people died in St. Lucie County, which is in southeast Florida. The damage is widespread, everything from cars flipped over, trees torn down, and hundreds of homes destroyed in multiple counties. Local rescue crews are also starting to emerge this morning to begin service safely again, and Florida's task force is working around the clock to find survivors.
The first couple of days is full blitz for all the task forces, just 24 hours of operation, trying to find those that are left behind, trying to find those that are stuck.
The home of the Tampa Bay Rays sustained major damage. You can see here powerful winds stripped off the roof of Tropicana Field, which was supposed to be used as a shelter for up to 10,000 people. And then this video from St. Petersburg shows a crane collapsed at the construction site of a 500-foot tall high-rise building. Thankfully, no injuries were reported. And there's really so much that's still going on even right now. There's debris in Sarasota where this made landfall. There's not only debris from palm trees, but also from those power lines that are down. There are also displaced boats in the area as well. Tampa's mayor is also saying that people should stay inside because of power outages, extensive damage, and lots of flooding. And right now this morning, there are more than 3 million Floridians without power. Ben?
Thanks. Members of the South Carolina National Guard already in Florida this morning, helping to recover after Milton. More than 70 soldiers and 30 vehicles were sent in to help. But this is important to note here, folks. South Carolina officials confirm those resources in Florida will not interfere with recovery efforts for Hurricane Helene. We're also learning that FEMA will not leave North Carolina, even as it prepares to help in the aftermath of Milton. FEMA officials say no resources in western North Carolina will be diverted down to Florida. As of this morning, more than $60 million in FEMA assistance has been paid to 134,000 people impacted by Helene. We'll see you back here tomorrow.